Go.
Morning, class. You guys are probably wondering why I have some starbursts sitting in front of me today. And no, they're not just for eating and to give you guys a treat. We're actually going to use them later on to go through the rock cycle to help you guys better understand it. So the lesson for today is the rock cycle. And we're going to first start out class by going through some vocab, and you guys are going to take down this vocab. It's on the smart board here. We're going to go through that, and then next we're going to watch a PowerPoint that actually shows the rock cycle and the diagram of it. And we're going to put those vocab words that you guys took down into that rock cycle to help you better understand what's going on and the interconnection of the arrows and everything. And then we're going to end class with a lab. And in this lab, we're going to work with starbursts to work through the rock cycle, as I mentioned before. So first off, the objectives for today is for you guys to be able to explain what the rock cycle is and also to demonstrate how it works. Also, I want you guys to be able to differentiate between igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rocks. And then also, I want you guys to be able to understand and relate and be able to show, either through a diagram and essay, how rocks can go through the transformation from one rock type to another in the rock cycle. So first, we're going to go over our vocabulary. First vocab word is the rock cycle. The rock cycle allows us to view many of the interrelationships among different parts of the Earth's system. And it also helps us to better understand the origin of rocks and how they were formed. Next, magma. I'm sure you guys know what magma is, but magma is molten material that forms inside of the Earth. So it hasn't quite reached the surface yet. Next, crystallization. This is the process in which magma cools and solidifies. This may occur either beneath the surface or at the surface following a volcanic eruption. Next is the igneous rock. An igneous rock is formed by the crystallization of molten magma. Next process is weathering. Weathering is the disintegration and decomposition of a rock that is at or near the Earth's surface. And we're not going to go into very far depth on this, but there's actually two types of weathering. There's chemical weathering and physical weathering. And we'll probably touch on that a little later. But for now, I just want you guys to know what weathering is. Next is sediment. Sediment is unconsolidated particles created by weathering and erosion of a rock, by chemical precipitation from solution in water or from the secretions of an organism and transported by water, wind, or glaciers. Next is lithification. Lithification is the process by which cementation and/or compaction converts sediments into solid rocks. So really be thinking of compaction. Real fine sediment being compacted or cemented together for lithification. Next is a sedimentary rock. This rock formed from weathered products of pre-existing rocks that have been transported, deposited, and then lithified. And the last rock type is a metamorphic rock. This is a rock that is formed by alteration of pre-existing rock deep within the Earth, but still in the solid state by heat, pressure, and or chemically active fluids. So can you guys think of any ways that metamorphic rocks are made? Like what causes a rock to be buried? Anybody? Correct, Mike. Usually through mountain building or faults, because it's going to be exposed then deeper in the Earth, so it's going to have higher temperature and higher pressure. And temperature and pressure both increase the deeper you go in the Earth too. Alright, so just a few guiding questions now. since we went over this vocab. Can anyone tell me the importance of the rock cycle? Next, what is weathering? Next, how could a metamorphic rock transform back into an igneous rock? And then we have our three rock types, our sedimentary rock, our metamorphic rock, and our igneous rock. Some of those other vocab words that we use are interrelated processes that occur between them. So, what I want you guys to always be thinking as we're going through this is that not necessarily is there just one process that can convert a rock from a metamorphic rock into an igneous rock or to sedimentary rock. There's lots of processes that are going on. And that's what we're going to look at next here in our slideshow presentation that actually shows the rock cycle and the different ways that rocks can go from one rock type to the other. And that's usually through the weathering or lithification or crystallization. So, this first slide shows the rock cycle, and you guys can see how it's composed of. You have your sedimentary rock, your metamorphic, and your igneous rock. And then in between those, you have arrows, like for instance saying the sedimentary rock can melt to form magma, and then that magma can crystallize to form an igneous rock, or a metamorphic rock can melt to form magma and then crystallize to form an igneous rock. So it's all interrelated. Different things can happen, and rocks go through different stages, different rock types do. But just make aware that you guys understand somewhat how this rock cycle is going. You can see the arrows that connect the different processes through each rock type. Alright, so an igneous rock can undergo weathering as it's exposed at the surface. And then the weathering can break it down into smaller particles, and then that sediment can be transported, as we said, and then lithified, compacted, cemented together to form a sedimentary rock. Then from that sedimentary rock, it can be exposed to higher pressure and higher temperature to form a metamorphic rock through, like we said, mountain building or a fissure or a crack or something that gets it deeper in the Earth's surface, or beneath the Earth's surface, excuse me. All right. So, next we're going to go into the lab portion of this. Unless, do you guys have any other questions on the rock cycle or anything that we went over? You guys understand how it's interrelated and interconnected, and this lab's going to help reinforce that so you guys can really see what's going on with that. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our starbursts. You guys are going to cut them into small pieces. You're going to take 3 colors and cut them into small pieces with your scissors. From there, what does that represent? What do those little pieces represent? Right, they represent sediment. So then we're going to take that sediment and we're going to compact it together. You guys are going to mold it together, and then each group is going to take someone else's ball of sediment and we're going to mold those together so you can see all the different colors. We have all different kinds of sediment in there. And it's being lithified, compacted and cemented to form a sedimentary rock, right? Okay. So, once you guys have them work together and you've combined with each other, Why do you guys think this gob is considered a sedimentary rock? Yes? Mike? It's because all the sediments are lithified and compacted together, as we said earlier. So, now we're going to take the sedimentary rock and we're going to begin to mend it between our hands and start getting it warmed up and getting the temperature warmer on it. And then we're going to take that rock, we're going to lay it down, and we're going to take some books and we're going to smash it together. So, what do you guys think is going to form next after we add our body heat to the rock to warm it up and then smash it with the book? First of all, what does that represent? We're representing heat, and what's the book representing? Correct, pressure. So we're adding heat and pressure, and what does this usually form? Yes, a metamorphic rock, that is correct. So we have our metamorphic rock, and now we're going to go from the metamorphic rock to an igneous rock. And how would you guys think that we would do that? How can a metamorphic rock go to an igneous rock? Think along the lines, to be an igneous rock, it has to be exposed to temperature again, and then it has to crystallize, right, and cool. So, we're going to add heat to it. So I want you guys all to gather around me, because we're going to do this part together, because we're using a hot plate, and just for safety reasons, we're all going to do this together. So, I have my hot plate here, I have my metamorphic rock, I'm going to place it on the tin foil here and I'm going to melt it. So as we're melting it, you guys can see the changes taking place. And from there, after it's completely melted, we're going to take the tin foil with our metamorphic rock on it that is melted now, we're going to set it aside and it's going to cool. So again, what is this cooling called? Magma to cooling. Does anybody remember? Yes, Janie? It's crystallization. And that is what forms the igneous rock. So, now that we've worked through this lab, you guys can eat the candy, of course. But I want you guys to think about the rock cycle and the different components of it and how it interrelates, and keep in mind that a rock can start as any type of rock. It can start as sedimentary, it can start as metamorphic, it can start as igneous, and then by working through the rock cycle and going through some of these different processes is going to form into another rock. So, you guys were assessed today on your note-taking and your notebook, the worksheet that you guys worked through this lab, and then also, more formative form of assessment is you guys are going to be given a blank rock cycle and you're going to fill it in with the rock types and the different processes that are involved in it, and then I want you to then write an essay summing it up on what is going on and what happens between each cycle and what can make a rock go from cycle to cycle.